You know, some people age like a fine wine, and some people age like a can of special brew left on a hot windowsill. Whichever one you are, get ready to talk about those pesky little emotions of yours, because it's time for another episode of I've Had a Rosé, Let's Talk About Feelings. Please welcome your host, Sam Lake. It was me the whole time. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of I've Had a Rosé, Let's Talk About Feelings. I'm Sam Lake, and joining me today is the wonderful and incomparable Joe Sutherland.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
That was a very sort of like, hi.
Hi.
That was a loaded hi. Mm-hmm. Do you need to express something?
No, I just thought I'd brood for a moment.
Oh, okay, brood away.
Thank you.
Okay. Is this the tone for the entire episode?
We'll see where it goes.
Okay.
We'll see where you take me.
How are you? Are you well?
I am very well. I've just stepped off the train in this fair town.
Fresh off the train.
And yeah, the streets are aflush with Swifties.
With Swifties. Swiftites.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, she's here for 3 days. 3 days?
3 days.
3 days. 3 nights. She's at Murrayfield, which is not far at all from where I live.
God, well, I hope she got a bargain, because let me tell the hotel prices this weekend. I hope you've booked ahead.
Do you think she's in like an Ibis or a Premier Inn?
No, she like one where you could get a slightly better membership scheme. Like, she's definitely got a Ramada club card.
She's collecting the loyalty points. If there are good weather conditions and I open my front room window, I can hear the concert.
Ooh.
I heard Beyonce one time. She wasn't doing a concert. She just happened to be outside. Very strange.
Darren!
Darren? Did you say Darren?
Yeah.
She's just looking for Darren.
Yeah, just her mate Darren, who lives down Murrayfield. Yeah.
I was just checking if that was Jay-Z's real name.
No.
Darren Zed, as he's known in the UK. So you and Taylor Swift are here. Mm-hmm. You've obviously had a long-going bitter rivalry. Mm-hmm. Do you plan to make amends at any point, or do you think it will keep going, this feud?
I can neither confirm nor deny whether my next track will be either a diss or a commiserations, like, apology.
Right, okay, yeah.
Tune.
Mm-hmm. And you're both dressed as fast food items.
No, I'm actually more about solid proteins and whole foods, so I'll be a salmon steak.
Okay, and she can be a tub of pure whey isolate.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
Well, no, because I'm lactose intolerant. That's actually really...
Oh, really?
That's really crossing a line.
Oh, that explains something about your choice of drink then, which we'll come on to now, shall we?
Okay.
So every guest chooses a drink, something to help them settle in, and you chose, and I believe you said it's your first of the season, an iced oat latte.
Yes.
Why an iced oat latte?
Oh, I just really love it. There's something about it being cold that makes me kid myself into thinking it's okay to have in the evening, whereas having like a regs latte coffee of an evening.
Yeah.
Unhinged. Who are you?
Not even a decaf?
If you're doing decaf, just give up.
Well, okay, I'll leave. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Your life's just over.
What if you've had a big meal and then you think, I could
just have a little...
Just a little espresso.
Un espresso.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a bilingual episode. Okay. I do somewhat understand not having a hot... I mean, I could have a hot chocolate of an evening.
Whew. Yeah, that's a different... But that's because you're sending yourself to sleep. That's your Horlicks territory.
Yeah, okay. But is there... So do you wait until sort of the more summery months to allow yourself to start drinking iced coffee?
I wait until the more summery months, but then I do allow the season to continue until beyond my autumn birthday.
Okay. And that's fine. And you stand in your truth and you're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Do you mess around with other seasonal beverages, a pumpkin spice?
I withheld for such a long time. And then I think coming out of lockdowns, I was like, I need to be experiencing life.
Yeah.
And so my friend and I did actually make a trek October 2021 to the west part of London so that we could go to a well-known chain of coffee proprietors
Sure.
to buy a themed latte,
themed beverage,
to be able to walk near some leaves in Hyde Park,
feel autumnal,
in order to then clasp the cup, look at the leaves, and take many pictures.
Yeah. Love that vibe.
Yeah.
Love that vibe. When it was locked down and David and I were just in the flat, and it was before you could properly go outside for longer than just your daily walk.
Oh, yeah.
And things started opening up again. We were having a conversation about what do you want to do when things open up more and you can go outside. And I said, do you know what? Very simply, I would just like to go somewhere and have a nice takeaway coffee. And then he said, I would quite like to go see my mum, who I've not seen in 6 months. And I was like, well, we have different priorities, and I don't see what the problem is with that. How are you enjoying that particular ice oat?
It's lovely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sitting well?
It is.
And you don't find the caffeine affects you even though it's nighttime?
I mean, I guess it does, but in a way that I like. I think my caffeine spikes are very short-lived.
Okay.
But also, I don't really drink very much anymore. And so
alcohol.
Yeah. And so it's kind of caffeine is what I allow myself instead. In fact, for when I first solidly did a big chunk of absolutely no drinking, I was like, so what I will allow myself is an unhealthy amount of caffeine.
Fair enough.
Every 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was doing, oat lattes at night.
You've built a resistance.
Red Bulls, yeah.
If I may ask, because you stay quite fit, you like the gym.
I do.
You do.
I've been known to peruse the iron playground.
Do they like it when you call it the iron playground?
Yeah.
You and the gym boys?
Yeah.
Do you mess around with pre-workout or
I'm just getting into it now.
What do you think of it? Because I always worry I'm about to have a heart attack whenever I try it.
Oh, well, which ones are you trying? There are a couple of brands that I do like in the vending machines at my branch of the gym.
Oh, you get out the vending, okay.
No, but I'm about to experiment with some that I will order.
Okay, you'll do a bulk.
Have a better balance of ingredients.
Okay. I think the one I got was from My Protein, where I get all of my supplements. But it was like a free sachet that they just dump in. You know, when you buy something from My Protein, and even if you buy just one small thing, you qualify for about 5 free gifts.
Okay.
Yeah, and one's like a cookbook, and then one's like a 30-day workout, all this stuff. It came with like a free sample of it. I was like, I'll try it. And it was like a red juice thing, and I didn't feel right for about 2 days.
Sometimes, you do have to be careful because some of them can have an amount of caffeine that is, enough to kill a child.
That's good
so you
to
have
know.
to do the right research.
Okay.
So I'm looking for ones that actually don't have caffeine because I'm getting enough caffeine elsewhere. I'm looking for ones that have BCAAs and creatine, basically.
Oh, you've got to get your BCAAs.
Oh my God, who are you if you're not even doing BCAAs in 2024?
If I don't get my amino acids that I'm supposed to, my aminos, I will kill someone. I will. I'll kill someone for creatine. So you don't drink it for caffeine. You drink it more for a vibe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a vibe drink. It's a vibey drink.
Yeah.
I like a vibey drink.
Yeah.
Yes.
It sets me. I'm that girl who has I have things to do. If I could have a completely empty day in the diary, but if I'm holding an iced latte,
you just feel
I'm
like
busy.
You've got things to
I'm busy.
do.
Yeah.
You've got to stand in a soft breeze with a scarf, a long scarf. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that for you.
It's like I don't own a wide brim hat, but when I'm holding the drink, spiritually, I'm wearing a wide brim hat.
I could also see you, now that you're describing this, I could see you with a Stanley Cup.
Oh, I really nearly bought one the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah? You want a nice bit of lead in all of the water that you drink?
Yeah, well, I'm getting every other element from across the table.
What's wrong with a bit of lead? That's what I've always said. Well, great. I'm glad you're settled. You've got a beverage. Let's talk about your chosen topic. And I have to say, when I saw the topics you suggested, I immediately thought this one, because I think this combined with the fact that we're both drinking iced coffees has the potential to become the gayest episode that we've done. This is already quite a gay podcast because of all of the things that I say and do on it. But you chose Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV show. Well, there was a film and there are graphic novels, but I assumed TV show.
Yes, TV show. Yeah.
TV show. What brought Buffy to mind?
Because it encapsulates everything, surely.
Doesn't it just?
The word feeling in the title of the show, I cannot name a feeling that the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer didn't cover.
Yes. Isn't the musical episode called Once More with Feelings?
Once More with Feeling.
Wonderful. Wonderful episode. Do you remember when you first saw Buffy?
No. Some, heady haze in the late 90s, I presume.
In the late 90s,
Yeah.
okay. But was it a thing that you watched and you were like, I don't know why I'm responding to this, but I am, and in a big way?
Yeah, and I think it was coming on to British TV when I was maybe just that little bit too young. But something clicked. And then it was around season 4, the gay season.
It did get gay. Yeah.
When by then I think I was about 13. And it just made sense.
It's just lesbian witches everywhere.
Lesbian witches who can do no more than hold hands.
Hold hands, but when they hold hands, they become better witches.
Fridges be flying.
Did you have a favourite character from Buffy?
Yeah, at the time I think it probably was Willow. Now I do look back, and I say look back. I do an annual rewatch.
An annual binge watch, sure.
Usually, okay, forgive me, but usually just from season 3 to 6.
I always think that with
7,
binge,
sorry.
I've been binge watching 30 Rock, and there are some chunks of episodes where I go, I sort of remember what happens. I'm skipping to the bits where I know, the gold is coming.
If something's done 7 seasons, it hit its stride midway through season 3.
Yeah.
So you can generally... Although the first 4 seasons of Sex and the City were perfection from a comedy screenwriting perspective, but I will still only jump back in at around season 3, episode 4.
Yeah, that's specific, but I support that decision. Because season 1, I bet, with a lot of TV shows, the first half of the first season of a long-running show usually feels quite different compared to the rest because it's still finding its feet and working out what works. And then once they find that, then that becomes the DNA for the rest of the show.
Yeah.
So the first early episodes of Buffy, probably quite different to the rest of them.
Oh, yeah, you can't... Oh, my God. Good luck trying to watch early seasons of Buffy on a plane. Because when you try and watch something dark, but on those tiny little plane screens. I tried to watch the Robert Pattinson Glasgow Batman.
Yeah.
And that's full title. There's been that many films now. That's all they had left to call it. And I couldn't see a thing.
No.
Because the shitty little resolution on that tiny postage stamp. This is why I just end up watching Minions every flight I take.
Which also had a lot of lesbian content in it.
Yeah, a lot of lesbian content
enough.
And a lot of emotional darkness, but visually...
Yeah, visually
bright.
very bright.
Yeah.
Very bright. That's such a good point. I mean, I just download everything on my phone when I go on a plane now.
Oh.
I download it ahead of time.
Do you do the little trick that Katie Price taught us all, where you clip the sick bag into your phone case and then fold the sick bag over the seat and clip that in
seen
to make
this.
a little holder?
Katie Price came up with that.
Well, she certainly elevated it.
Katie Price is in Peter
Jordan.
Andre.
Yeah.
Yeah. God,
It was
what a
on her
modern-day
TikTok
pioneer.
3 years ago.
You think of Katie Price and you just think the woman who came second to Javine in 2005 to represent us at Eurovision.
I think Katie Price and I think entrepreneur and mother. But
Okay, yeah, sure. Did being a fan of Buffy sort of affect your personality in any way? Because my friends who watched Buffy sort of went into a very soft goth phase, light goth.
yes. I guess it certainly informed my teenage spiritual practices. I may have purchased a number of crystals,
Some runes. Yeah.
and I did like to make sure that if I was walking to or from something, be it school and after school, an extracurricular activity, I would just check if there was a graveyard en route.
Oh, okay.
That I could divert through.
I don't know what this says about me. I whittled my own steak.
I'm so glad you said that, because I did the same, but I did it for my friend for her birthday, and so, pre-streaming and all of this.
Yeah, you had to watch on VHS.
They were so expensive, those box sets, and they were only half a season.
Yeah, you can get them all
episodes.
on one. Yeah.
But so I had bought the Once More with Feeling soundtrack CD before that episode had even aired in the UK. And so I burned a copy for my friend and photocopied the cover.
Fun.
And then did a handwritten note and hand whittled a steak and put it all together in a little box and gave it to her. What a brat. She was like, so you gave me a free CD and a twig. And I'm like, we talk about Buffy every single freaking day.
That's such a thoughtful gift.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry that they weren't appreciative. That's so lovely. Yeah, I whittled my own steak in case vampires ever came back. I never dressed like a goth, but I just liked all of the I liked all of the equipment. Mm-hmm. If my parents would let me have a crossbow, I would have had one.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's your primary Slayer weapon of choice.
Yeah, I like the accessories, not necessarily the aesthetic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But you didn't have it. You didn't have like a goth moment.
I suppose at one of my secondary schools where it was a bit tribal, sharks, jets, goths, townies. In order to immerse into a group, I did attempt a bit more goth, but the attempt was I had one Slipknot hoodie.
Didn't we all?
Yeah.
Didn't we all? So, favourite character was, as you said, Willow. Who's your least favourite?
So at the time, my favourite character was Willow. Now, upon my rewatch and looking back, actually, I think my favourite character is Anya.
Because she's sassy.
But also she is she is developing throughout. She's the character who develops the most. She learns
to
humanity.
be human. Yeah.
And she is also a kind of she's an allegory for being a little bit on the fringes. I think a lot of queer people, a lot of neurodiverse people can kind of connect with Anya in
They're
these
all
ways.
listening to this podcast.
Hi.
I've seen the statistics. The bit where Anya's, when, spoilers, but I mean, you've had your time to watch, when Joyce dies. And then everyone's thinking about what's the best thing to do, and then Anya's just so plainly just going I don't understand why this is happening and why she can't just come back.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time she had to reckon properly with mortality.
Mm-hmm. It's hard. Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you had this, but when Buffy was first on, and Willow and Tara were doing pseudo-lesbian activities, casting spells. And then by season 6, full les. Mm-hmm. Full les. I didn't know until people started going they're a couple. I had no idea they were lesbians.
You didn't?
That's the thing sometimes with things being queer coded.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone doesn't understand the code, and so it completely goes over your head. I watched Ellen DeGeneres' sitcom as a child. And even though at some point the man that she was dating was replaced with a woman called Laurie.
You just thought they'd recast Aunt Viv.
And then and then Ellen. And then
there's something different about you, Viv. Carry on with show.
Yes, because famously Ellen's husband in the show was Will Smith. It didn't occur to me she's a lesbian. And I think at the time I just thought that was some kind of job title, maybe. I don't know how much a lesbian makes annually, but it didn't occur to me that that's
if you're
what it
in
was.
public or private sector, I suppose.
Private sector lesbians. I suppose I'd prefer to be a private sector lesbian than a public one. I'm sorry, it's Pride Month. We don't know how to unpack that. I'm sorry. I do apologise. But when you watch it, you got that. I just wonder if that.
I think I remember watching, season 4
Yeah.
as they were entering into their lesbianism, and I think I remember just thinking, I must, because it also moved around the BBC schedule a lot. It wasn't very consistent, and this was before we moved in with my mum's partner who could afford Sky. So I never really watched a season sequentially. It was always quite patchy.
It was all out of order, yeah.
And so I remember watching it and like being aware that it was like, there's this tenderness between these two characters. It's very sweet.
Yes.
I guess I missed the one where they just said out loud, "We are lesbians now."
Yeah.
I just presumed there was an episode where that was the dialogue.
Because the only other thing that was on at that time, and by that I mean time of day, because it was a time to be alive was when BBC Two, 6 o'clock, it would be 2 episodes of either The Simpsons or Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then usually a bit of Buffy.
6:45 Buffy, yeah.
6:45 Buffy.
Thursday.
Yeah. The only thing that was on at the same time where you could get a bit of the old queer content was Hollyoaks.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a bit more explicitly gay.
Yeah.
Because they had sort of the gay people walk around being like, I'm gay. And so it was a bit more in your face.
This is what I was transferring from the universe of Hollyoaks to the universe of Buffy. I was like, the only way that people become gay is they stand up and state, I am gay now.
I am
and
gay
then they
now.
continue with the show.
And then their entire family dies in a fire. They marry a priest.
Mm-hmm.
That priest crashes a car into a river. And then their former first love comes back from Ireland. He's now an established DJ. And then they leave to come back again, but only the one of them, because the other one decided that he wasn't that gay anymore. And then he comes back, and then there's a whole thing with
Which
some kind of
character
gay.
is this? John Paul?
John Paul. He's been through it.
Is he still going?
I don't watch anymore, but he pops up on TikTok every now and again. The last I saw, he was involved with some kind of gay conversion priest who was like taking the gay boys from school and convincing them to go on sort of like finding your faith trips where they do all these things. It was a time. It was a far cry from let's hold hands and, I don't know, peel the petals off a rose that's floating in front of us.
Aww.
That was a lovely moment.
Yeah, it's so good.
It was a lovely moment. You already mentioned it, but one of the, I think, the episodes that people often talk about with Buffy is the musical episode. Mm-hmm. How did you feel watching that for the first time? Because for me, it came out of absolutely nowhere. Why a musical episode? Why is everyone singing? But also, why haven't they been doing this every season?
But as we've learned from, I think, was it Gossip Girl? Or no, Riverdale. Where just suddenly every second episode was a musical. Mm-hmm. And they didn't even necessarily have I know there's some mystical things in Riverdale, but they don't quite have the cover of like, a demon has come to town and cast a spell on everyone.
Sure.
So what I really appreciate about Buffy is that even when things are absolutely wild bonkers off the wall, it is always conceptually tight. So I appreciated that. Watching the episode, well, like I say, I knew it was coming. I think I'd bought like a fan magazine and had already read an article about the making of. So and even then, there was a part of me that was like, that's got to be a joke article. Yeah. But then I found the CD, and it was in the days when you could take a CD to a little scanning station in the CD shop and listen to 30-second samples of each track.
Could you really?
Yeah, it was in Borders, the American book and record chain that came over to the UK briefly. There was one on Tottenham Court Road.
Okay.
So I did that. I sat there and listened to a 30-second sample of every track and was like, well, obviously I'm getting this.
You have to. You
and
must.
Still, I think just thought like, maybe this is just a bonus weird thing they did. Like instead of just doing an audiobook episode, they did an album episode. And then it came around probably a year later onto the BBC. And it just blew my mind.
TV history was made.
But again, it was so perfectly done in that every character had a full arc in that episode, and everything about their like emotional needs and defects was put on the surface in a way that was actually quite damaging for everyone around. It's just it encapsulated everything that is so sort of perfect about watching Buffy when you yourself are a teenager, because and you're trying to understand how to function in the world when you don't really know if you're communicating properly, if other people are communicating to you in a normal way. Like, are you do you have to learn how to read other people's minds? Like, what goes on? How do you even function in the world? And Buffy was always so good at mapping that emotional struggle onto some ridiculous demon magic nonsense.
Yes, completely agree with that. Do you have a favourite song from that episode? And is it the Tara lesbian song?
No, it used to be. I used to listen to that one on repeat and imagine the music video I would direct for it. No, now it's Xander and Anya's duet.
Oh, that's sort of like an old Hollywood sort of number.
Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a vampire. Some of the controversial things about this show.
This podcast or Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I don't know what the controversial things would be about this. Well, some of the stuff that we have to edit out of the episode sometimes. But for the sake of some of the guests who said certain things about certain historical figures, we'll leave that out for now. Yeah, she got it. Producer Claire was trying to remember, and now it's come screaming back. There were some controversial moments, and I guess this is a case, I believe it's called Jumping the Shark, where in an effort to make a show stand out, they make some like wild and wacky choices. And a lot of fans of Buffy would bring up the subject of Dawn, introduced in season 5. Out of nowhere, suddenly Buffy has a sister that was never mentioned before. They, of course, come up with a reason why it was never mentioned before, but she just magically comes into existence. And it's that thing of it's like a Scrappy-Doo kind of situation where it's like, why did this new character come in? Why is that important? Were they necessary? How do you feel about Dawn?
One of the last events I attended before lockdown was actually a live enactment of the musical episode.
Oh, really?
Staged by Kiri Pritchard McLean, Jade Adams, Nush Kumar, Rose Matafeo.
A musical?
A musical, yeah. And so Dawn was played by Rebecca Humphreys, the fantastic actor who you can see in The Crown. But every time she would come on stage to do one of her bits, everybody in this 500-seater theatre would go, "No, boo! Boo, Dawn!" And what's mad is, Joss Whedon himself was in the crowd that night.
Was he?
Yeah. And he came on stage at the end, and obviously now we all know the truth that he's like not a nice guy. Yeah. So I haven't posted the photos that I asked to take with him. But he actually came on and like did a speech at the end and was just like, "Why do you guys hate Dawn?" And he just couldn't get it.
Well, obviously he made the show. He thought the concept of Dawn was a good idea.
Again, now looking back, and because I have been doing some of my rewatch recently, and I am about halfway through season 5.
Okay.
And what I do enjoy about introducing Dawn is that we get this whole new element to Buffy's story in that, like, you know, she, and maybe I just empathize as the older sibling, in that, like, there's suddenly this whole new dynamic, and it's really interesting the way they do it, because the character Dawn has been transplanted in. She's like made of magic. She's not a real person, but all the characters around her have had false memories implanted in their brains. And so Buffy's sort of narrative during that season is saying like, you know, I'm the oldest. I'm being told I always have to look after her. But I don't know why it's so much harder now. And it's like, it's because your previous memories are false. But there is, again, something about like this. There's a tipping point when you are an elder sibling in the teenage years where like, or it happens like throughout your life. But you know, there are these small tipping points that happen where like your responsibilities kind of grow and change, and it feels so unfair because the younger sibling doesn't have to do that. And so I liked that pivot. Just, you know, I felt seen.
I don't know if you're aware of, so there are 7 seasons of the show, but then after that, and we'll come on to how the show ended in a moment. They sort of extended the Buffy universe via the medium of graphic novels, which I don't know if you've read.
I have occasionally found myself in Waterstones having a
little skim.
And then occasionally, when I can't sleep, I may have read the entire breakdown on Wikipedia.
Okay.
So I know what happens.
So you're aware. So I thought this was very interesting, and I wondered if it's because that maybe Josh Whedon has less to do with it than he did with the TV show. But basically, a big point of the things that happen after the show's finished and the story continues is that something happens where all the magic in the world disappears. So Willow stops being a witch, other people lose their powers, and then because Dawn is made of magic, she just vanishes. She's just gone. And everyone still remembers her, but then over time, they slowly forget who she was.
Oh, wow.
And I just wondered if that's because like it had such a visceral reaction for a lot of people that they didn't like that character, that when something else is made in the Buffy universe that's more down to maybe fans or people who are maybe creatives but listening to what the fans want, that they just go like, okay, well, we dropped her in just like that and we're removing her, and also everyone forgot about her as well. Like the little alien from Flintstones.
Maybe, but then also, like, you know, comic books, they just go on forever and ever, don't they? So, you know, you kind of have to just explore every story angle.
Yeah. She could probably come back at some point.
Yeah, she did come back. Or does she not? Has she not come back yet?
I don't know. I've never read them.
I know there's a point where she's massive, like Alice in Wonderland style. She's like a giant for a while.
Oh.
And so she has to go and live in some mountains.
She's been really hitting the BCAAs.
Yeah.
So many gains. And they told her to stop. She got addicted. I just thought that was interesting. The end of the show. 7 seasons, all building up to something quite extraordinary. As a fan of the show, were you happy with how everything came to an end?
So for the listeners who don't know, what happens at the end is a huge battle face-off with the first evil and their army of uber vamps who reside in the first layer of Dante's hell. And in order to combat these uber vamps, Willow taps the power of an ancient scythe in order to activate every potential vampire slayer, because like one slayer is not just chosen at random. Like there are a whole bunch of slayers around the world, who have a gem of potential in their soul.
I just have to apologise because the term uber vamp has set everyone off.
Oh, I'm sorry, are you not down with the fan lingo?
No, it's not. They're not renting a vampire to take them to the cinema.
I mean, that, or it sounds like a Real Housewife.
Uber vamps.
Uber vamps. Donatella Uber vamp. Of the Florida Uber vamps. Yeah.
Oh, she'd have a good tagline, wouldn't she? I won't just suck your husband, I'll suck his blood. Sorry. Can everyone calm down, please? Sunnydale sank into a crater. Can we take this seriously? Yes, so that is what happened.
Yeah, so then all the potential vampire slayers become actual vampire slayers.
Vampire slayers, and it's a big moment, and it's quite feminist because she says stuff like every girl or woman who can stand up will stand up, and you see someone who's like being abused by their husband, like grab his fist and then overpower him, and montage. The girl who's playing baseball. All of that lovely stuff. I guess the reason I'm asking is because Buffy is a show that has run its course, unless it comes back in the future. So there is a beginning and a middle and end for all of the characters, all of the storylines. Like it's done. So with that comes the expectation. Like, did the show end in a satisfying and pleasing way? Because you can have a show like Game of Thrones, for example, where lots of people weren't happy about that.
Oh,
so did you think the payoff at the end of Buffy was satisfying in everything that you wanted it to be?
I think it was painful for many reasons, but at the same time, I liked that it ended with a sort of ambiguity. I think the final line is so what do we do now?
And Giles says like, oh, there's another Hellmouth.
Yeah, but like this is the incredible capacity of Sarah Michelle Gellar as an actor. Is that like, so that final beat, it's not her line, what do we do now? But the camera pulls in on her and she just, with the slightest flicker of an eyebrow, embodies this sense of like, you can just tell that she has literally carried the weight of the world on her shoulders since the age of 16. And she just, through the tiniest facial expressions, embodies this sense of like her entire spirit facing the unknown in a whole new way, and not knowing how to compute that. Like, some of it's positive, some of it's obviously wholly like some of it's overwhelming, and it's so beautifully done in her face in just this like 2-second shot. And for that, I think if it was any other actor and it was an ending like that where you're kind of like, oh, it's what a strange place to finish, but because it was her and because she'd played the role with so much emotion for 7-8 years, it like, just that final frame for me was like perfection.
It did it for you.
Oh yeah, I think about it so often.
So there's nothing you would change about the finale if you...
I would have maybe a few less key characters die. I was very sad
that Anya died. And in such a sort of like, again, watching it back now as an adult, when the way that she was like killed off, it was very much in passing on the show. Like, she was very much a fan favorite show, and then it was sort of just like the camera turns away and someone goes, oh, but that's it, and she's dead.
Yeah,
and she's gone.
It was done very quickly.
Yes.
I would say that's also partly because that season was plagued by budget constraints. But in terms of her like character arc, her death, well, you know, she put herself in front of the character Andrew. She sacrificed herself. And for everything that we've known about Anya throughout, like, she's very self-focused and not like, you know, not a sort of outward giving person. She's slow to kind of comprehend that as a human trait.
Yes.
But the fact that that's how she finished was like putting her life on the line for someone else. Is a very full circle moment.
I do agree with you, but I also quite like cinematically, I guess, that it happened so quickly, because you think that every character, if they're going to die, will get like this big hero's death, like Spike did. But not everyone can have that, because that's not real life. So some people just go like that, and blink and you'll miss it.
The genius of the show is like throwing in so many difficult things to have to comprehend, and not all of them are done in the most obvious way.
Are there any life lessons from Buffy that you think you have learned and carry with you as a person?
All of them, I think.
All of the life lessons.
All of the life lessons.
You learn how to do your taxes from Buffy. Investing in a sensible ISA.
She has that financial trouble in season 6 and has to get the job at the chicken shop.
Sure does, yes.
And well, I guess, you know, she's a bit like, it's the show at its core is not only about like how you develop and about like relationships, but there's a lot of morals and ethics in there. She's constantly having to question, you know, how do we like the idea of good and evil is not a simple binary. You know, there are all of these other areas in between, and like how do you work with someone who has betrayed you? How do you kill your own boyfriend to save the universe? Like, which is something I have found myself having to do. So it was really useful in that way.
Yeah. What if all of the men that you've ever loved have already died and are vampires? Yeah. It's tricky. It can be tricky. Sorry, that's my timer going off. One final question for you then about Buffy. If you had the power to bring the show back, either for a season or a special, what kind of things do you think would happen? Buffy's back. So, members of the Scooby Gang are there, whichever one's of your choice.
So we're talking a revival of the previous cast. We're not talking a reboot.
7. Okay. It's a continuation. Where do you think What do you think Buffy is, say in 2024? What's she up to?
In her 50s, what is she doing? As I've mentioned, I have read the breakdown of all of the graphic novels.
Let's say that's not canon.
No. What I think I would want for her is that she's probably a bit over it, and she probably lives a bit of a hermit life on a farm.
Okay. Secluded.
Yeah. And then, something is rumbling out there in the distance, and so a young upstart Slayer has to go sort of,
and she's dragged back in,
sort of Luke Yoda style.
Sure.
A young Slayer has to go and find her because she's the only one with the secret to help her, and so
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, that's what.
And would it be the same style as the show, or would you make it every episode's a musical? It's Buffy, but it's also Glee.
Every episode is a rap musical.
Love that. Hamilton and Buffy. Lovely. Being in the room where it slayed. I don't know. I'm not a songwriter. I do apologise.
Maybe just for a bit of fun, I'd throw in a sort of time travel episode though.
Ooh. Maybe go back to Sunnydale before it's a
she
crater.
could have the option to go back and make herself not the Slayer, and she would have to toy
and she just becomes
mull over that decision.
She just becomes a spin instructor or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or that's it. She's thrust into another reality, which I guess we've kind of seen in season 6 as well.
It's always fun to do a fish out of water thing.
Yeah.
Maybe she's a reality TV star or something. Yeah. Well, there she is. She's on The Real Housewives with Marlena Rubavamps or whatever you said she was called. Well, we're nearing the end of the episode.
Okay.
My straw has gone soggy. So it means it's time for one last thing to do with you. The straw in the mug. The other straw's a normal moisture. It's time for... Don't shake your head at me. Never. The last bit of the show is quickfire feelings. I'm going to give you some random topics, and you just very quickly tell me how they make you feel. And you can be as brief or as thorough as you wish to be. Okay. First thing, we ask this to everybody: how do you feel about dark chocolate?
Relatively ambivalent. I'm not a big sweets person. If I'm having sugar, I need it to come with salt. So if it's going to be chocolate, then it has to be a sort of stupid
like a sea salty thing.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. How do you feel about the duet between Beyonce and Shakira, Beautiful Liar?
Terrible video. But but somewhat inspirational. We can all, because we could all have made that video ourselves.
Okay.
I've got some net curtains and a smoke machine.
Okay. And can you do that belly dancing thing? Do you have a robust spine?
I think after a few sessions of Reformer, I could.
Fair enough.
Do that, yeah.
Okay, we're getting turned at Reformer Pilates. Lovely. How do you feel about Romanian deadlifts?
Oh, do you know what? I actually really like them.
Do you?
Yeah, I don't like a normal deadlift. I've never quite figured out how to distribute my weights, and my spine always hurts afterwards. But a Romanian one, also because I really feel it in my butt cheeks, and so I every time I pull up, I'm like, squeeze.
Yeah. I agree. I just put that in because I was saying to you earlier that I started doing deadlifts, and I don't know if I'm doing them right. Hard pivot here. How do you feel about Stacey Solomon?
I feel happy for her in all her endeavours.
That's very nice of you to say. And finally, how do you feel about Skittles, but the special Pride Skittles where they don't have any colours?
Ugh, stupid. Because I want to imagine that each Skittle has its own flavour.
They do.
Do you think they really do?
Yes.
Or are we just being sort of duped by the colour? We're sort of what's the thing where you taste words and smell sound?
I don't know. They don't let me back in the library anymore. No, they have different flavours.
Do they?
But
Okay.
but internationally, the colours mean different things. Because I think here, green is lime or something, and in America for a while, I think it was apple.
Oh.
And I'd prefer the apple, if I'm honest.
Oh.
But yeah, no, they do have
I
different
just
flavours.
kind of assumed that maybe, well, who knows? Yeah, I think it's stupid because also, like, when the real colours make them feel somewhat more attached to nature. Like, I know that fruits are red and blue and yellow.
Yeah.
But what food is pure white? Cocaine.
Oh,
So I just worry about what I'm putting in my system.
do you get one of your 5 a day of cocaine? That's what's in the pre-workout. That's what's setting me off. Okay. Thank you for your feelings there, and a lovely chat about Buffy. I really enjoyed that. Have you had a nice time?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I hope that's interesting and informative.
I think if Buffy fans find this, they love a good discussion. They love a good discussion about Buffy.
Also, they're going to come for me in the comments and say, actually, when he was humming that song, that wasn't Xander and Anya's song. That was one of the instrumental interstitial bits of music that was actually also used on the closing titles. I know, I realise that now.
I'm glad you corrected yourself because I was definitely about to do that. Before you go, is there anything that you would like to plug or share with the people? Where can people find you online? Have you got anything coming up?
Find me on Instagram. Type in Joe Sutherland and I'll be there. I'll be there.
And do you have any shows coming up?
Well, I'm hesitant to plug things that aren't finalised on podcasts because every time I do...
Well, then don't.
Yeah.
Well, just leave it there. And what's wrong with that? They can find you online. Lovely to have you here. You can follow the show at I've Had a Rosé, or you can follow me at Mr. Sam Lake. We'll see you again very soon for another episode. Goodbye.